Bahama. How are you, sir?
What's up, man? I don't think anyone's ever called me that.
I just gonna say, I'm like, how have I never called you that before?
I don't know. Like when I was younger, I did used to wear some Hawaiian shirts with some
Oh,
frequency.
come on.
I
Listen, I
was
don't care.
I was the chubby happy guy, so
I
that
don't
fit
care
my
what
MO.
I don't care what anybody says. A fucking Tommy Bahama floral print shirt. I'm a sucker. I can't.
Yeah, bro, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a lifestyle, right? There's a Tommy Bahama store in the mall here, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
Sarah's like, just walk past that. I'm like, but this is like Mecca.
It's
It's
like
like every shirt.
middle-aged white man
No,
leisure wear heaven.
it's every shirt I've ever wanted. Now, I'll tell you what, if you can give me a Tommy Bahama shirt with a Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction logo on the back, then I'd truly be in heaven.
I'm sure somewhere that exists. If you can think it, it's a thing.
Right. That's a good point. If you could think it, it's been made.
It's been made.
Yeah, at least once or twice. Yeah.
Matt, we haven't been face to face in a long time, but my t-shirt collection's gotten pretty heavy duty.
I mean, that's fair.
I gotta say, one of the t-shirts that eluded me is made by a company called Methyl Syndicate.
Yeah.
And it has, remember the Craft from the 90s, the movie about the witches?
Mm-hmm.
It has the 4 girls across the top, but it has the Kraft macaroni and cheese logo below it, and it's tie-dye. And it is fucking gorgeous.
Oh, that is everything. It's everything I've ever wanted in a shirt.
And a reference to a processed food.
Yeah.
A bunch of cute chicks I was crushing on in the 90s,
Yeah. No, it's really a little bit of everything now.
Everything anybody could ever want.
Yeah. So, yeah, of course.
I like when we're not scripted at all, man.
There was a when I first started my company back, God, forever ago, we were in internet, right? And we had day jobs at the time. And so we spent all the money that we made on gadgets to avoid having to pay tax on it, right? We're just like, well, it's a business thing, we're a tech company. Strategy. Right. And so we always were buying these things. And so we were constantly in the mix of, new technology. They came out with, I think it's now threadless, but like there was a company that came out where you can buy this machine and it'll print like 20 shirts across like a laser jet, but it would print it like a dye sub. So it'd be like raised. So you could do one-off t-shirts. It was like this crazy technology where and there was I think it is now threadless, or it was then too, but they used to do this thing where they'd have a contest. It was the best business model ever.
I used to buy those shirts.
There was a contest, right? So they got all these people doing all the advertising for free for them, and all they had to do
design work, everything,
and all the design work, and all they had to do was essentially print t-shirts. I was like, these guys are fucking geniuses, like absolute fucking geniuses. Like what? And I was like, I want to do this. And one of the printers was like $100,000, and I'm like, this almost seems worth it, actually. Like, I mean, we could make the website. We had a web design company.
Yeah, like the other version of it.
We never did it, but I was like, that all came out of the fact that I just fucking love t-shirts. If it wasn't for the fact that I know I would print every t-shirt ever made if I had this machine.
Yeah.
Like I would need a clothing depot to hold all the t-shirts that I would own.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many companies that do it and they do it well. Like $5 tees or $6?
No, but nobody was doing it at the time. That's what I'm saying. No. It was like this one company and like nobody else. And Cafe Press, like it was
but
like
Cafe Press wasn't even the same model. It was kind of, even today.
You can get something from Cafe Press.
You definitely can, but no, I'm not trashing it. But like they'll put the print on a mug, anything.
Hey, your mouse pad that you need
Yeah. And you could have a store on that too, which
I did think was nice. I mean, it was a good, like I said, I don't know. It's funny. There are a couple ideas that have been around much longer than you think. Like this t-shirt thing.
Yeah.
Like that thing, we're talking early 2000s. That became like internet t-shirts was a thing then. Like
who was the guy that he tells the story of like how he got rich, and it was basically like he spent $200 buying t-shirts with something funny on it
Right.
after he saw it on TV. Which guy was it?
I don't know, but that sounds like pretty much.
He sold out in college, and within a few years, he was just an entrepreneur. Yeah,
Right.
He wasn't even looking at college anymore.
No need.
You know,
we're good.
Yeah, he turned $200 into like $10K or something.
Yeah.
Insane.
Okay. Sure. Fair enough. So this week we had a bit of a deja vu for me anyway, and it got me kind of like smiling because this guy just seems to be
everywhere.
Everywhere. Right. And this guy's got the secret to life, right? Like he's a molecular biologist. His name is David Sinclair, and he runs the genetics lab at Harvard. And he wrote Lifespan, which we did an episode on, and we both love that book. And actually, a lot of the stuff in it is pretty cool, very interesting science,
and very accessible too.
Yeah, totally.
That's the other thing,
right? But now, I don't know if it's fair to say he jumped the shark, but I mean, we seem to be now entering in a different period of, because I ran across this article on the dailymail.com, and it's like Harvard longevity researcher, 53, says he de-aged himself by a decade thanks to these 4 daily health hacks. And a couple of things struck me. One, I love that they think they could distill like this complex, topic into 4 daily health hacks. And then B, I love that the marketing department said, we have to make this into 4 daily health hacks. And they did
it. It's pretty funny because you go to that website and this is a British, I don't want to call it a tabloid, but it's certainly not investigative journalism. And it hits you with every fucking spam pop-up on the planet.
Every single one.
And
then a bunch I never knew existed.
And I don't remember some of these things he was talking about.
Well,
should we jump into it or no?
Yeah. So like the issue with this, right, is like the first one is run 3 times a week. And I honestly and truly don't remember that prescription specifically. But there's nothing more generic here than saying exercise. Well, okay. Thank you, Captain Obvious.
Yeah.
Like I just, and then if I say 3 times a week, that sounds scientific. So, that'll make people believe that this is real.
And it's so like first of all, they did a professional headshot of him at 53 and what looks like it was taken after he had a couple of drinks in his 40s.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. And you can't tell if the photo's from was he 49 or was he 40?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
was this was snapped with an iPhone 2.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but I technically 49, Tom, would not be lying if they said late 40s.
And honestly, I believe that is this kind of journalism here because
I mean, as late 40s as could legally be attested to.
Let's just say the trending articles beneath the photo is Hollywood Country Club wife says tennis pro had an affair with husband.
Oh, right.
Hard hitting.
Hard hitting.
Hard hitting.
But here's the funny thing, and actually there is a point here though that I think I'm interested in. So this is at dailymail.com or .co, right? .uk.
.co.uk.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a big long thing, but this hit 100 million people that had never read Lifespan, right?
Yeah.
And now anybody who is intrigued by this article, it now has a source of better information than this, but his name, and a couple of the high takeaways, which I mean are not exactly glamorous, right? Run 3 times a week, eat just a few hours a day. Well, that's like chapters of that book on intermittent fasting and the timing of food, right?
And there's such a volume on both research and writers talking about both of those topics, right? How we need to get some cardiovascular exercise, and I'm surprised they didn't do more on weightlifting, but it is pretty funny.
But if we get it down the weightlifting rabbit hole, then you've got to get into the mTOR conversation,
and it's just such a and then that's a little too heavy right there for them.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, and actually I need somebody to sit my ass down and I want 20 people to give me 20 accredited people to sit me down and have an AMP-K mTOR conversation,
I
right?
need diagrams and
Like I need a
maps.
I need you to walk me through this, because if you look into what's his name, the supplement, the guy who takes like 200 supplements a day, the fuck is his name?
Oh, we talked about him.
Anyway, I can't remember his name.
Is that not the guy that spends like $2 million a year?
No,
on,
not
on
that
his
dude.
health,
No,
right?
no. This is an older guy. He wants to live to see the singularity. He's been on Greenfield like a bunch. Anyway, oh my God, he's like the most famous dude ever. Like, and I can't remember his name. Anyway, he had a whole thing on it, and basically that he said he limits his strength training to twice a week, and it's real light. And it's basically him trying to inhibit mTOR to like an extreme degree, but knowing that you need some kind of strength training in your repertoire to stay truly healthy. So he's basically saying like, no, the least amount of strength training I can do to tick the box is what I'm going to do.
You know, it's so funny because this is the thing, and this is kind of what gets me about all of this, right? Now, with Sinclair's knowledge, and he's looking at, systematic reviews, he's doing his own research, the level at which he operates when the average person says, I did research on this. No. You read Daily Mail's article.
Yeah, right. Right.
And you saw avoid jerks. Like, yeah, I'd love it, but how do I do that? Do I like kill 80% of the planet?
Right. How do you do that?
How do you do that? But I mean, I guess you could glean something from here that's useful. It's they talks about drinking 2 cups of matcha, and I don't remember him saying drink 2 cups of matcha every day.
I don't, but like, here's the thing though, drinking 2 cups of matcha has got a ton of health benefits. And so if you've got some average run of the mill dum-dum who reads this article and is like, oh, so this is my new next week. I'm going out to fucking Wegmans today, and I'm going to buy like 1.5 pounds of green tea, and I'm just going to steep it all day, it's not going to kill you.
No, this is something else that I feel like you mentioned jumping the shark here. I didn't see this.
What?
Serena Poon is a celebrity chef that apparently is David Sinclair's partner. She's a nutritionist and she's the one that makes him the daily tea. And I'm wondering if this is some cross promotion here.
Could be.
And she looks like a celebrity chef.
Right.
And yes, she is a certified nutritionist. I'm not knocking her credentials.
No, yeah.
But I'm wondering if this is an attempt where he won't sell out in his book and mention brands and stuff like that. But it's also pretty funny because in the next couple of lines, they talk about him taking 2 resveratrols.
Sure. Well, and then the other thing, like, I mean, he then they throw in the don't be jerks category. They threw in a bunch of stuff like, oh, I also meditate,
Yeah, I love that. Just meditate 20 and do yoga 22 hours a week.
Well, I mean, look, okay, that's an option. I guess.
Yeah, make it a part-time job, bro.
I mean, 22 hours a week is fucking absurd, by the way. Like, but this goes back.
Yoga instructors don't do that.
Yeah, we've talked about this 50 times on the show. Where we say, you know what, it would be lovely to do 23.5 hours a day of PEMF and fucking red light and blue light and white light and fucking, like cold dunk therapy, fucking halotherapy. I mean, we just stack it up. I mean, I would love to just do that.
Just have a day where you're just moving from one machine to the next
for 23 hours a day.
23 hours a day.
Why not? Right. And here's the funny thing is nobody can do that. You see, like that's literally
honestly,
impossible.
I think, and I've talked about this. I think a backlash is coming on the biohacking movement, and especially the celebrity or the influencers that are on the internet. And, let me tell you my daily routine. There's one dude and there's a company, and I believe she makes, like, it's called like Moon Dust or something. And she makes these bougie ass fucking powders. And she's got a little, she had a post on Instagram, and this is before TikTok blew up. and she's going through, well, let me tell you my daily routine. And there's a guy sitting there like mocking her, totaling up all the supplements she's listing that she takes. It's her company. And it was like $400 a day in just fucking mushroom powders.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like if money was not an option or not an issue, like why wouldn't you? Like, I mean,
that's the thing, I mean, how's that practical health for anybody?
No, absolutely not.
I mean, even Greenfield's like, every day I do this. And it's like, bro, you just listed 40 things that all take an hour.
Right.
Oh, I combine some of them.
Stack. Because the word stack is cool.
That's mine, man. That's my fucking word. I got to get that book out before these assholes take it.
No, everybody. What are you talking about? You've never heard him say stack before?
Oh, no, he does.
Yeah,
he does.
Like constantly.
Yeah.
No, but the point about this though is like here you got a guy who spends his whole time fucking doing all kinds of shit like this, right? And like has never probably made a ton of money ever, right? Like because he's a researcher, right? It's not a bad thing. I mean, it's just they're not known for their
affluence.
Yeah, right. Now
although he's a Harvard researcher, and now he's like even better than getting published in journals. He's got a fucking book.
Well, no, he's got a book that got followed by a lot of people.
What I'm saying is Harvard is probably cashing in on this too.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, well, they cash in, maybe not financially directly, but what they definitely cash in on is
his name and
yeah, right. Like, you're a teacher at Harvard, or you're head of the genetics lab. You don't think their genetics lab gets a fucking ridiculous amount of contributions after a dude like that's running the show?
Yeah, and I'm sure you throw his name on a grant application, it kind of carries a little bit more weight too. Well,
it basically probably means you're getting the grant. Like, hey, I really want to study this. I wrote that book, the one that everybody on the planet read.
The one with the yellow cover.
Yeah, the one that got me on like, every late night show. I mean, the guy's been around, right? I mean, he's
made the tours.
But here's the thing. If I read this article, what I like about this article is that it is to a generic sort of bottom of the barrel readership, right? Like there's not, this is
here's two sentences in a big space. Here's correct. 2 sentences in a big space.
Yep. Yeah. And it's like, it's not a ton of information, but let's just say somebody paid attention to this. They would run a little bit more. They would eat in a shorter window, which, drink a bunch of matcha tea and avoid assholes. Like,
what, that is the low hanging fruit, right? Like, let's do these things.
And it's funnier still, and this is just the marketer in me, but when I read these articles, I can't help but to think that they literally designed. Did you notice that they format them now in a way that makes you not even have to read it? Like if I get to this thing, I've got the picture of him in his quote unquote late 40s. I've got the picture of him at 53. I've got some intro copy I might not care about. Run 3 times a week is bigger and bold. Keep scrolling. Eat just a few hours a day. Keep scrolling. Drink matcha green tea. Keep scrolling. Reduce stress. Great.
You need the bold font parts only.
That's it. And you're like, and I read this article. And then, of course, that's how I read it the first time. And then when I dove in, like they do dive in here, but like it's like the ends of the sentences, they're talking about stuff that like, you need.
It is so weird that it's formatted. Here's the sentence. Okay, space, next sentence.
Yeah.
Here's the space, next sentence.
No, it's literally meant for people with zero attention span, which I can appreciate.
It's only getting worse.
Yeah. I mean, I can appreciate this. But I don't know. I like it when these articles get more of a mainstream readership because it means that
well,
more people are getting
the
tipped
focus
off
on health more, right? And I don't know, maybe we're getting smarter even though we're not, kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't want to put too much stock in that statement.
Yeah, it's probably good. Probably good that you don't. So, anything come across your desk? Because I found a couple things, like the news this week has been interesting.
Well, man, I gotta say, I know we talked about daylight savings in a whole episode. It is kicking my ass. So I like, as I told you, I barely remembered that it was Thursday and that we do this thing.
Yeah. So
But
what are your symptoms?
well, look, I was up all night last night, and I was tired. I just couldn't get back down. And normally, my wife hates it because I will sleep through the dog getting up and screaming that it's got to go out. You know, he's barking at the foot of the bed, and I'm not even conscious. You know, like I go out, and at 3 a.m. I was like, oh, we're up for the day.
Right. Wow.
Yeah,
That sucks.
It sucks, and yeah, you know, whew, yeah, even driving to school this morning, dropping the kids off, some dude ran a red light as we were making a left, and I thought it was like, oh, he's gonna hit me.
Sure.
Yeah, you know, like I was in the passenger seat. Fortunately, we did not, but just lunacy, man, just lunacy outside, and I'm feeling it.
Interesting. You're like describing some kind of like post full moon existence.
Well, we're almost at a new moon too, which I know sounds bonkers, but I believe that also tips the scale towards crazy as well.
Yeah, well, there's definitely something in the air right now for sure.
And
like,
spring fever, if you want to call it that too.
Yeah, well, we're in a weird spot here, but you know, it is funny. Those things, like it was like what 60 something degrees here in Baltimore.
It was gorgeous
today. It was like gorgeous, but like it makes people a little sort of like, you know, like it's like get outside.
Yeah. You know, and it's so weird coming off 2 days where it was windy as hell and freezing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like this fucking with people's brains.
It totally is.
You're
and
like
that in like a line out like a lamb thing. It seems like lion lamb every other hour.
Right. So you know, here's a little lead into our next kind of topic here.
Yeah.
What this AI stuff we've been kind of leaning in on. The whole world is, by the way, every single time, every minute, every client call that I have is AI is 10% or more of the conversation.
Man, and how could it not be? Because I'm hearing like somebody mentioned it today, and you know, I was joking like I'm going to write my next book using all Chat GPT, and I know plenty of people have, you know, already. They're going to be cranking out novels, and they used it to optimize. He's like, yo, man, you know, I was talking about my Google ranking. My Google ranking for my website is great. But for some reason, I can't get the fucking, you know, where the map is. I'm like, why are we so low on the map if I'm like number one for Baltimore acupuncture under the sponsored ads? And it's like, plug that into Chat GPT. They'll tell you what you need to do.
Wow.
And I was like, what? He's like, oh, yeah, Chat GPT can figure out Google's algorithm.
Wow.
And I was like, well, hold on. The supercomputer is better than Google?
Yeah.
The writing program is outthinking Google. That's fucking bonkers.
No, of course. I mean, but here's the thing, like we all blame it on like the full moon or whatever, right? Like stuff like that. But here's the thing. If you're feeding an AI to track human behavior across a lunar cycle, I'll kind of be willing to bet there's no correlation when the data comes in.
Look,
right?
Man, like, I'm going to do it now.
Do it. Yeah. Yeah. Because it like, look, I believe that science explains previous myths. And I feel like anytime somebody's like, it's the full moon, I'm like, okay, or it might not be. I mean, we could accept that as a possibility.
Look, man, all I'm going to say is, like, when Mercury is retrograde, whether or not I believe it, I blame fucking everything on it.
Oh, well, I mean, obviously. Yeah, obviously. But like, so read an article this week, which I thought was interesting and probably just totally driven by PR company. But Google's kind of, I don't know what this means, actually. They're officially announcing that they're throwing AI at its healthcare offerings, right?
Well, you know, it's going to be so amazing.
Well, so here's the thing, like it probably will be, and it probably will be because there's no reason for it not to be. Google's got more actual data than anybody else on the planet. And so I don't know why you would think anything other than it would be the best version of itself that exists, right? I mean, there's other $1 trillion companies out there like fucking Apple and Microsoft and Amazon They all have awesome technology as well, but
Yeah.
but AI learns from information, and Apple has a lot of information and Microsoft has a lot of information, but literally every search done on the internet starts at Google. Nobody's got more information than Google.
Did you see a while ago, Bing had been basically, if you went to Bing.com and searched something, it would Google it and give you the results on Bing.
Oh, that's so fucking hilarious.
And it's like, look, man, I can't fault them.
Yeah, right.
Why reinvent the wheel?
Sure. I don't blame. Yeah. I mean, that's just so funny though, because, but like, imagine a company that's tracking every search that's ever been made and the answers are given through the same system. So you've got probably one of the most complete, like, views of humanity that, cause you can track IP address, location, topic, answer, and then you can start doing trends. Like what does Google know about how old I am, what gender I am, like what religion I am, what political party I am?
I mean, it could probably pick all of that based on your search history.
No, of course. And so here's the thing, like why would you think that an AI that was seeded with that information wouldn't know fucking everything?
It's so crazy. And speaking of this, before we dive into this next thing, I said, is there any evidence the full moon affects humans? And chat sat on the goddamn fence.
No.
Yeah, it said some studies suggest that there might be a slight increase of certain types of behavior during the full moon, an increase in hospital admissions for mental health issues, or an increase in violent crimes. However, other studies have failed to find any significant correlation between the full moon and human behavior. So it mentions confirmation bias,
Sure.
Which makes sense, right? Something bad happened and I'm looking for a reason for it. But it says the evidence is not conclusive and more research is needed, which is like the tagline of every fucking study.
It's the tagline I mean, it's funny because the FDA and people like that are tethered to this draconian lattice work that doesn't make any fucking sense in 2023 health.
Absolutely
right?
Not.
Like they literally just need to light that fucking thing on fire, watch it burn to the ground, sing Kumbaya, and move the fuck on. Right? Like we can't, I can't, it makes me incensed that we actually still pay attention to this. I mean, to me, listening to these rules as they stand is akin to, sacrificing a virgin for rainfall in the dry season. Like it makes no fucking sense. You're like, are you serious?
Look, man, that actually does work though. Yeah. It's been a long time since we've actually done it, so I can't give you any scientific data.
It's fucking stupid. It's just absolute stupidity because we know this information is flawed, like heavily flawed. I don't know. I get all worked up.
Well, years ago there was an article, and it was called "Lies, Goddamn Lies" or something like that. It was written about a Greek medical doctor that basically debunked the top 5 health things. So here he is. He's at a symposium and he's giving a lecture and he's like, "I'm going to get crucified. There's 1,000 fucking doctors in the audience." And he's like, look, cholesterol doesn't give you cardiovascular disease. Was like a big, that's fucked up. You can't say that, and then he pointed to 4 other things that were as heavy hitting as that. And the whole audience, instead of booing him and running him out on a rail, was like, yeah, I can see that. These are all MDs that are literally telling people, no, I'm going to put you on this statin. And they're like, yeah, I can see that.
So my doctor told me, my concierge doc, by the way.
Concierge doc?
No, the guy who's supposed to not
I know.
You know what I mean? Like the guy who's supposed to not be bound by fucking the insurance company is like, your cholesterol is 225. I think we should explore a statin. I was like, I think I should explore my foot in your ass. What the hell's wrong? Fucking, look, are you insane?
And this is the funny thing because cholesterol is a hormone. In practice. And even LDL has a function in the body, right? Do we want it super high? No, but I also don't want too many platelets. I mean, there's too much of anything. But at the same time, I remember my great grandmother. She got a blood test when she was 92 or something, and they were like, "Your cholesterol's over 300. We're gonna put you on a drug." And she goes, "What is that gonna kill me?" She's like 91. She's like, "Fuck you. I'm not doing that."
You're right.
She was much more polite about that, but that was her generation.
I see now. I would think my grandmother would have been like, "Go fuck yourself." Like it would have been. Yeah, no.
As she puts a cigarette.
Yeah,
out
right. Do you have a light?
Doctor's office.
Yeah. Do you have a light? Yeah, right. Right. No, absolutely. And that's funny because it's like, what happened to the days where we could just smoke unfiltered Camels
you know what?
and live to 90?
Like, those like fucking shows that are like throwbacks and everyone's smoking.
Oh, I love it.
It's so, you know what, man? I've been watching. Did I tell you this? I was into Night Court. I got back into the original, right? And every fucking scene, somebody's smoking in the fucking courthouse.
Oh yeah.
And it was like 85, 86 when those things were going on.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's what you did. You went anywhere and smoked.
And it's just, God, man, the first time I went to Atlantic City, New York had already banned like smoking in all the bars and everything. And I walk into the fucking casino and there's a bunch of old people just chain smoking everywhere.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell?
Now, I had a dream that I smoked the other day and I woke up with a tight chest. Like I can't imagine. I can't imagine. And like every now and again, I'll break down, I'll have a cigarette, but it's like once in a blue moon. And like instantly, I'm like, this is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
This is a terrible, terrible idea.
I mean, the nicotine hits so fucking hard.
I have told I have told my kids though, I was like, listen guys, I'm not going to lie to you. If I didn't know for sure it'd kill me, I would be chain smoking all day, every day.
It's so crazy. I mean, back in the day, we would smoke cloves and beanies.
Oh man, both.
And it's like
there's a wives' tale in there too that cloves are like worse for that, like shredding your lungs or something. I'm like, guys, come on.
It's funny because cloves in Chinese medicine, we use them to actually open up the chest.
Oh, do you?
But I mean, this is I believe this is the same analogy as they put the gold flakes in Goldschlager to get the alcohol into you quicker.
Yeah.
It's like...
Well, at cloves opening up your chest, that actually makes sense because like
it's an aromatic.
Well,
right?
thieves so the thieves
blend. Yeah, that's the one of the big four. Yeah,
right. That's heavy in cloves, right?
Cloves, cinnamon.
All the Christmassy type ones.
Yeah, I mean it smells delicious.
No,
and by the way, you son of a bitch, I now have a diffuser here with pine going in it.
Now, just tell me, how much nicer is it?
I'm in my basement bomb shelter. There's the, what do they call it, Faraday cage over my fuse box. But yeah, I turn it on and it feels a little bit like I'm outside in the woods.
Yeah. No, it's lovely. Yeah, welcome to the future, man.
Welcome. We don't even have to leave the house. I'm going to put on my fucking VR goggles and I'll be walking through the fucking Seattle, redwood forests.
I mean, seriously. I mean, actually, I never thought about that. That's fucking genius. Like, can we do an episode from a virtual pine forest and we could just put our shit on?
I wonder if the metaverse, you can go into that in a pine forest. I've never looked past that. I've been using that Trip app to meditate and everything's like, hey, here's giant psychedelic colored mushrooms. And you're like, yeah, the Trip, it's called Trip. Yeah, I get that.
Interesting. Yeah, you know the Amanita muscaria or Amita. What is the?
I might have some in this room I'm sitting in.
Yeah. But did I say that right?
Amanita muscara.
Yeah, that muscara.
Toadstool.
Yeah. So I went out to Vegas to the head shop show, and there was a booth there where the guy had 10-foot tall walls of plastic bins filled with dried Amanita muscaria. Like,
how did that miss the FDA? How did the FDA miss that one?
They are legal.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's not psilocybin, so they just kind of We're
Dude,
like,
it can't be bad. There was fucking houses made of it on Smurfs.
there.
Like,
I'm assuming if I saw a bunch of tiny blue people,
that I've eaten too
I
many.
probably have eaten those. But
Yeah.
you know, and look, even fucking Mario Brothers.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right? You know, and Alice in Wonderland.
Oh yeah.
Guess
100%.
what the hookah smoking caterpillar was sitting on?
What tipped you off that it was a hookah smoking caterpillar?
I believe White Rabbit, the song by Jefferson Airplane.
Right. Yeah, there's so many. Oh my god. Hold on. I got to show you something.
We're not even getting to that fucking article.
No, no, we're not going to get to that. But check this out. I was actually in Vegas and I met this guy. One of the booth. He just did this with the Lewis Carroll Association.
Really?
Yeah, he autographed the book for me. It was awesome, but it's Alice in Wonderland with his
art.
His art.
Oh, that's like fucking trippy Dr. Seuss.
Dude, is this not nuts? Like, this is absolutely crazy town.
That is fucking nuts, man. It's like it is like Dr. Seuss meets Salvador Dali.
Yeah, look at this. It is just absolutely amazing.
Holy shit, dude.
Now listen.
Is that his calligraphy too?
Yeah, no, this is like, look at those mushrooms, you know?
I mean, wow.
So yeah, this guy was, I mean, and then it's scattered in. It's not just all full color. Look at this. Like, it's like, you know, you've got a little bit of a mix.
Is that mouse melting?
Yeah, it's really cool. But anyway, you know, it got me thinking, this is intense. This is the last one I'll show you. Yeah.
Shoot, that's the Mad Hatter. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the fucked up rabbit with him.
Yeah. And so what I like about this is basically it kind of goes to show you how deeply ingrained this stuff is in our society
in our culture.
You don't even know it.
I mean, like we know the Santa Claus tale, right? That's how reindeer were flying. The shaman would drink the reindeer piss because the reindeer detoxifies the mushroom.
That. Yeah, that's hilarious. I forgot all about that.
And Santa comes down the chimneys because in the snow in Eastern Europe goes so high that you come down the chimney to get into the fucking house.
I mean, I don't want to live in a place where I got to do that.
Look, man, but
although Lake Tahoe right now is close.
I got talked out of jumping off the second story balcony when we were in Vail, and I'm like, no, I'll survive. It's like 3 feet down, and then like 8 feet of snow.
Yeah, right.
I might not be able to get out, but
well. Answering the next question, I'm just going to answer what am I doing here with that one because it's a great dovetail.
Yeah.
We've been trying to go out to California. My kids have never skied in California. My parents live out there because that's where I'm from, and the resorts keep getting snow. Like Mammoth
they were getting rain. My social media manager was like, dude, it's been raining in LA for like 2 weeks. And once you get up to the mountains.
Yeah, LA. They Mammoth got 18 inches of snow yesterday.
Yeah, again, it's crazy.
Like Mammoth's snowpack or year to date was like 6 something. I don't know. But snow on the ground in a pack, not snowfall for the year. The pack is 23 and a half feet deep.
Shit. Wow, man. That's almost a glacier.
That's ridiculous. So we're thinking like end of April, go out and do a little West Coast skiing. And
that's awesome, man.
I mean, at the rate they're going,
you're going to make it like a family thing plus a vacation.
Well, I got leftover Epic passes, and I've got a gazillion Southwest miles, and my parents live there, so like I can
do an all in one kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's like not a super impactful price trip, right? Like, I mean, it's we take the flight on miles. I have free lodging. You know what I mean? Like, and the Epic passes we are paid for. So it's like, it's kind of like, and
so Epic passes are they national? Are
they are, it's anybody with Epic. So yeah. So,
wow.
So I just bought 5-packs cause I got for me and the kids.
Well, and you guys ski every fucking weekend in the winter, right?
Yeah. And so, and we were supposed to do more, but like the winter here was so weird that our schedule got crazy.
My kid's school gave us back a snow day. They're like, we're just going to have a day off. Why? We didn't use any.
You're in Baltimore County, right?
Yeah, so we're at a private school, but they were like, "Look,
Baltimore
we
County.
normally count on a couple."
Yeah, I think they're giving us back a day too.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense.
So what are you getting involved with?
So, man, this is about a month away, but my buddy in New York, a colleague of mine that I came up with, and we had the same mentor. He goes, "Hey, man, do you want to come to this acupuncture society thing in New York?" And I'm like, "Bro, I haven't been a member since I've moved." And he goes, "Yeah, but they're honoring our mentor."
Oh,
So, my mentor passed about 2 years ago. This is the first banquet they're having. And, he's not a big name. He doesn't have a ton of books named after him. He's been published quite a bit. But, like, if you weren't specifically looking for my style of acupuncture, you wouldn't even hear his name.
Sure.
And the fact that the state society is honoring him, I'm like, yeah, I'm there.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm super excited because I'll get to see a lot of, like, down here, even though I'm involved politically, with the Maryland Acupuncture Society and all that, I know a few acupuncturists. I mean, that was home. That's where I went to school. I know more acupuncturists up there. So I know I'm going to show up and know, 40, 50 people. It's kind of going to be a little coming home, even though my parents have moved down to Delaware.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but that'll be cool. Like that actually be great. And like those things are always good too, because then you start to start talking shop and you start circulating ideas and you're just getting out of that business thing. So like, that could be a really
I think
good use of that
opportunities there as well. And honestly, we wouldn't even be having these podcasts if it wasn't for my mentor. I'd probably still be sitting in a closet somewhere trying to figure out how the hell to run an acupuncture clinic.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's a testament to him.
I mean, I owe it all to him.
Sure. Yeah. So then, a couple of days out of your life isn't going to kill you, and it's for a good cause.
Train right up to New York, and I get to stay at a Sheraton in Flushing.
Oh, nice. Yeah. The glamour of Flushing.
The glamour of Flushing, Queens. I'm going to get
my
first LIRR.
My first company's office was in Flushing.
Parts of Flushing are pretty nice. My
not the part my office was in.
No, I'm pretty sure. I have to say, my talk about bougie. My cousin and her husband bought John McEnroe's house. In I think it's a Deepdale. I don't know if it's Flushing proper, but it's adjacent.
Okay.
And it looks like a famous
right.
A famous athlete bought a house.
Yeah. And this is what they buy.
And this is
if
what they
you were a
buy.
famous athlete and you wanted to buy a house, imagine that, and then that's probably right.
And I'm like, wait, there's fucking parks in Queens? Yeah, just in Flushing. Just in this part of Flushing.
Just in this part. Just in the bougie part. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Buses can't get down there.
Right. Well, sorry, it's I guess sorry that you lost him, but good trip probably.
His legacy will live on, and he touched everybody that has interacted with him, and he's got people his age that still are crediting him with becoming acupuncturists. The dean of my school, this is a crazy thing. I thought the dean introduced my mentor to acupuncture. The dean's like, no, he was already studying it for 2 years when I met him in Japan.
Oh, that's crazy.
Like, oh, shit.
Yeah, right.
And there's a good 50, 60 people that I think, that I know he put into East Asian medicine.
I like that. That's one thing I don't see too much anymore, actually, and it sucks. But like when I came up ranks in jiu-jitsu, like,
and that's how we were trained, like with martial arts. Yeah,
right. And the guy that I learned it from a guy who brought it from Okinawa directly, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, and he opened up dojos in the 50s in the Bronx, and it was like, no money. Nobody knew what the fuck it was. He just loved it and like spread the word. And then he did it for a long enough time where pretty soon we were dojo 309, I think, or 306.
Yeah.
So he put out hundreds of dojos like that were kind of licensed under him. He didn't make any money because he was not a businessman, had no idea how to. So like it wasn't.
That's a reoccurring theme with martial artists.
Right. And he wasn't. So
and acupuncturist.
Right. He's got thousands of followers, but he did it just for an entire lifetime dedicated to just because he loved it. And like, you don't see that very often anymore.
No,
right?
no. Have you heard this word? And it's a Japanese word, giri. Giri. And basically, and this is what I think he was operating on. I owe so much to the people that came before me, to my mentors, to my teachers. I will never be able to repay that debt. So the best I can do is be the best fucking version of the thing that I'd been trained in.
Sure. Yeah, and that's, I mean, we never had a name for it, but we basically, I remember my black belt test, my sensei was like, a belt just holds up your pants.
Yeah.
Being a black belt is a way of life. It's an energy you carry. It has nothing, and I said, it's funny. You should have broken it down like that, like when I was a white belt, because like that
you won't get it.
He said he said that was exactly what he said. He goes, you wouldn't have understood.
No blood, sweat, tears in yet.
Yeah, right.
Right,
yeah. So yeah, it must be awesome to be able to go see somebody and kind of celebrate their body of work, and like, it's just cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm super excited.
Cool, man. Well, have fun.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Cool, man. Well, I'll check you next time then.
Yeah, man. We'll see you soon.
You bet. Like, what's up, Tom?
Hey, Matt. How's it going, man?
Good. Turns out my packs didn't quite warm up in time.
Oh, okay. So, I'm gonna hold off on partaking because I believe the last time we recorded, I fell off about 30 minutes in, and I think you were just talking, and I was staring at the wall.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, look, it's been. I got to tell you, man. I mean, this show keeps me honest in the sense that like makes me kind of have to like focus my ADD into like a certain direction, because, man. The shit that's coming out these days, it's coming out so fucking fast.
So fast.
Mind blowing.
So fast. And it's funny because, not only is the AI, right, happening, we're using the AI to launch so much more shit.
Well, and it's funny because I feel like the popular culture has already forgotten about ChatGPT. Like they're this was really fun for like 10 minutes, and now we couldn't care less. And that's fair. That's actually what I thought would happen. But
I mean, that's just people not seeing the possible. Like you're going to get some people that are like, no, you don't understand. This is going to revolutionize everything. And then you're going to get the rest of the world that is goldfish memory.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Oh, something else is shiny. Right. Hey, this celebrity posted a nude or something. It'll be something that completely detracts from anything that but that's where people like us dive in deep on the weird shit and hopefully come out a little bit better for it.
And it's funny because we were playing around with it just for this show too. And, it's got a long ways to go.
Should we tell them our formula?
No. Because it's still so preliminary, but I guess what I'm saying is like, it ain't perfect. I mean, it
definitely isn't. It definitely isn't. And just if you ever ask for research, just check the links that it gives you.
Right. Well, that's the funny part about these professors. They're talking about this. They're reading these papers in college level, and they're like, what the actual fuck? I don't even know what I'm looking at. It's so off. Like, you're like, what? It's like, so clearly like it's too much for the college kids to just let this thing write the whole paper.
Just to let it go.
They can't just fucking proofread it. And like, you know what I mean? Like they can't be bothered for any part of it.
Just give me 1,000 words. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. I could not care less about this at all. Yeah. So like I think for the game that we play here, like it doesn't really play to like rely on it to do even like mild work without heavily fact checking and proofreading and like, so like to the point where it's a really cool thought, but it's just not there.
It's not there yet. It's not there yet. No. But I do believe like 6 months from now we might be totally like, I don't even have to. Let's just Matt. give us 2 scripts for this podcast.
Right. Right.
Make a joke every few minutes.
And text me. Text me the cadence of what I have to talk about, and text Tom when he has to talk. Just feed us lines one back and forth. We'll just sit there and read, like off of a thing. Well, I mean, look, that's happening like someday soon. That's going to be there.
Better yet, can you pull video off of the internet and stitch it together so it looks like me and Matt are having a podcast?
Oh my God. Did you? Oh, there is a fucking amazing. Oh, what the hell is the name of it? There was an amazing podcast that I read about deep fakes. And holy fucking shit. It is absolutely bonkers. They have an AI that you plug into your podcast that's either video or just audio or even both. And you remove words or add words. Like instead of re-recording, you just fucking add it in.
You just fix it.
And it has enough voice pattern for your voice to do it, and it'll move your fucking lips on video, like to make it
in sync. That's crazy.
It's crazy. Like, you have to say to yourself, like, holy shit, if I can do that on this fucking dumb show, like what else could I do? If I was motivated to be like politically nefarious or like, you're
already seeing celebrity porn tapes that are not them,
I mean, God, that's just like, those are just the
tip of the iceberg.
It's awesome though. I mean, it's awesome in the sense that we're here, right? Like, and it goes back to show you, why we have any of that is because of fucking porn. They wanted to put Gisele Bundchen's face on some chick riding a dude because that would sell a lot of pictures. Like,
just get us one close enough and we'll CGI the rest.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Like, they're like, this is like why we have technology. It's because of porn. All the technology we have is because of porn.
You know what? I would say the urge to breed is so strong that's kind of the reason we've done everything.
That's a fair point. We could totally.
I mean, we might still be sitting in a cave eating raw meat if.
So you know what? That's a fun segue into. We had a couple interesting things hit the radar.
We had some,
and like one of the things that like I just always strikes me as odd to hear out loud, but when you think about it, it's completely real. Is that hugging or physical contact, by extension, makes you healthier?
Yeah.
But here's the funny part about that. Like, don't you think that shouldn't have to be said? Or it's so meaningless because you're doing that anyway that like it's just a random fact, like saying like, oh, you have to breathe to stay alive. Like they seem sort of like
I would say it's part of the human condition, right? But I think on one hand, it's so innate to being human, right? Physical contact, right? I need to, and on the other hand, like we were pretty much starved for it for a couple of years, right? You had your little family group. You were locked up in your house. You weren't going out. You had that contact, but like, God, man, how many times do you fist bump now instead of shake somebody's hand? So the level of contact has changed so much. And all the neurotransmitters that are released, everything that happens in a hug, we grossly overlook the value of it, I should say.
Well, yeah, and it's like, and it's funny because people love like that oxytocin high, right? Like there's, like, oh, and you're like, great. How do you get this oxytocin high? Well, you touch somebody.
You touch somebody else.
Like, I mean, how else? Well, that's the big one. Like, so like, you're like, okay, so that's all I got to do. Like, I literally just got to touch somebody.
You need to be in a community that values physical touch.
Right. You just have to do that. And then, you look at the world now, right? And like, look, I'm a big believer that evolution is like the cure of everything, right? Because what we don't have and need, if we perpetuate, we need to invent, right? Like our body has to do it. So if the outcome of human condition post COVID means that we don't touch each other ever again and we just fist bump and, it's, virtual porn and
little weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if it's just like totally hands off, like we'll need another way to do that. Right.
What was that movie? Judge Dredd.
Oh yeah.
Sylvester Stallone. And they didn't like, even they had sex like in VR.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. VR sex and Petri dishes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, So how do you get that sort of cuddly situation out of oxytocin? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, how else are you going to do it?
But
Yeah,
I think it's gonna. You'll. The body needs it so badly, it will invent another way to do that. Like, I mean,
you might be like picking up like inanimate objects and getting, and I think it's funny because I'm wondering, because we know that there's certain triggers. Like if I see you do something nice for somebody else,
sure,
I'll get a little hit. I'll get a little dopamine release.
Yeah.
Right. And I wasn't even in that interaction. I just observed it.
Right. And
so I'm wondering if watching it on TV or, we know there's some downsides to porn, as well as I would say it's probably not all negative, but I'm wondering all that, there's plenty of drug users that aren't addicts. Within that, probably a horrible example there, but
there are some people that take loads of ecstasy and don't have sex.
Yeah, just happy rubbing a carpet. Oh man, I got to wall mount this monitor because the camera attached to it is just wiggling so much. I'm sorry.
No, it's the same thing, man. Here, I'm in this perpetual construction zone here, so I'm looking to get out of that and have my camera permanently mounted. But yeah, it's just funny that so much of the world has turned into things we have to rediscover, and we are so dumb. We have forgotten so much that we require proof of shit we already actually know. Right.
But 1,000%. Yeah. I watched some post and their little Instagram thing was all about homesteading, and they're like, oh, my ancestors looking at me canning and, having a sustainable garden and being like, oh, you guys are still doing that. And, oh, look at me. And it's like, yeah, that's another one of those things we probably should have never given up.
Sure.
It's like, it's not new, man. It's
not. And that's what I'm saying. Like 200 years ago, you didn't need to tell somebody to hug somebody to feel better about the world. That just fucking happened.
That just happened.
Or at least it was like less weird. I mean, like
it was ingrained. I'd argue 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, look, you're not wrong for a certain portion of the population for sure. But I just think that like, as we get more quote unquote advanced, we sort of have this mistaken identity situation, right? It's like we confuse technological advancement with human advancement.
Advancement.
Yeah. Like, no, we are moving technology forward, but like people's emotional intelligence is like
we're still
lower than it's ever been. Like people are like just emotionally unavailable. Like,
I mean, look at this, man. And to my point, before COVID, if we were going to do a podcast, you and I would be sitting face to face.
For sure.
Right? Why? Right. Oh, because I don't want to run all the goddamn wires, and then we got to do all this syncing. And okay. The technology's here where you and I can just go to our offices, flip a, button, and boom, we're in front of each other.
Sure. Right.
But and we saw that with counseling too, right? Across the board.
Right.
Therapy is online.
Couple therapists I know don't even do in-face therapy anymore.
Why? They don't have to wear pants.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm making a joke there, but really, why when there's no commute, right? I mean, you could, somebody could be like, look, I'm dumping my car.
Right. Well,
I'm lowering all my overhead. I don't need an office.
Sure. And like, who that really can really affect positively is like people who live in major cities where they don't really need a car. And now you're like, oh, well, I mean, I don't really need this.
Yeah. Well, also think about it. Like now, and the rules have changed since COVID is kind of like we were told COVID's gone. You used to be able to do like interstate telehealth relatively easily because it was like all hands on deck.
Right.
Some of that has been retracted, but like, hey man, my therapist decides to move to California.
Sure.
No big thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. As long as they keep their license in Maryland,
right,
they can still do counseling for me.
Right. Now, could you in that case, can they only do you because you're in Maryland?
I believe the patient has to be there.
Sure,
but and don't quote me on that because until I can figure out a way to accurately put in needles at a distance.
Sure.
So I wasn't really paying too much attention to the laws there. It's like, it's like, oh shit, I got to go back to the office. It's only been 2 months. Yeah.
Right. but Right. No, exactly. But like you look at all these other, you see a bunch of studies come out about this. Like another one that was kind of on was about impact of loneliness. Right. And so,
yeah,
it's funny. Well, it's not funny, haha, but it's kind of interesting, I should say, that since COVID, all these studies have been focusing myopically on sort of all the things mentally that COVID
that
did
have gone.
bad for us, right?
Yeah.
And like these studies are real, right? Like hug more, you're better. We're hugging less. That must mean COVID sucked and did that to you. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. It probably did, right? It started that. But if COVID, as you said, they told me COVID's over for a while now, right? And so like, I mean, I could go over, we could be hanging out in person and hugging all we want, but like we don't. So like, why not? Like, so I don't know. So anyway, my point is they do all these studies. Like they had another one on loneliness, right? Like, and they've got one on digital. They've had studies on digital isolation and digital bullying and like all these things that really sort of blossom.
Hit home when you were locked in your
correct,
house.
Right.
Yeah.
They blossom in that environment, right?
Yeah. And I would argue that I think the focus on this has probably been because of all the mental health issues. And I mean, we could talk,
we could do
on a huge level, politically, globally. But really think about it, man. Even if you were okay during COVID, right? Let's say didn't have any friends or family that you lost, your job really didn't change too much. You were making as much, if not more money. I would argue that there was a mental health aspect that took a hit because you saw what was happening, right? Sure. And I mentioned that before. And I think it sits right now. Let's say I don't know too many licensed clinical social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists that are hurting for work right now. Let's say that.
Yeah.
I mean, you call 10 people, you're going to get, hey, I got a 6-month waiting list on most of them.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely.
But
like, that's my point though. That's like kind of feeds to the same point, right? It's like all these people are busy because we are in this fucking like almost self-fulfilling prophecy in some cases, because look, nobody's arguing that mental health was a collateral damage of COVID, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But there was this other study that I really thought was interesting, sort of my study of the week, which found it was a primarily Canadian group who did a huge meta-analysis of as many studies as they could find worldwide, right? That fit a very narrow criteria. And it was all about mental health and isolation in COVID. And it was a huge study. It had tons and tons and tons of research on it. It ended up having, I want to say, 137 different studies that got worked into it. And it studied in the end over 90,000 families. Like it was like absolutely crazy, right? Like, and so when you look at that and the outcome was the exact opposite. Well, I wouldn't say the exact opposite. That's unfair.
Mm-hmm.
It found that mental resiliency and physical resiliency went up in COVID, like, and the mind's ability. It was measuring specifically like the mind's ability to be resilient to forces.
Yeah, I would say resilience is just one aspect of mental health. So I see what you're saying there.
Right.
But like clearly no one was like, hey, this is fucking awesome. Yeah.
No, but you know what I think it did? And let me know what do you think about this? Before COVID, you're like, I don't know, a hutch for my dining room. It needs to be mahogany, got to have brass knobs, like all these things. You got all these criteria for it. And if you go to a store and they can't do it, you're almost like, oh, fucking these incompetent assholes. Like, are you kidding me? They don't have my fucking hutch with 87 specialty items on it. Fuck
yeah. Or you're ordering it online and you're like, what do you mean I got to wait 3 days?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me? I know gnomes make this in Iceland.
I'm a Prime member. Isn't it not in the warehouse that's like, 40 minutes away?
Right. And like none of that really exists. really anymore. Like, I mean, almost nobody that you talk to these days is not making regular compromises when compared to that scale, right?
Yeah.
They're like, all right, fine. It's 3 weeks shipping. Okay, fine. Whatever. I'll live.
I'll be reasonable here. Yeah.
Right. Like, so that is, I mean, it's a stupid example of resiliency, but like that, if that's all that they're talking about is sort of like my brain's ability to sort of see through what used to be one thing and is now a very different thing.
It's something different.
Yeah. Then I could totally see that, because I think everybody, I mean, it took forever, but I think everybody sort of reinvented themselves.
But I guess what I'm asking, is that their definition of resilience, or is the resilience the mindset that, hey, I'm going to get through this? You know, I'm wondering there.
Right. Well, so what the study ended up concluding was that overall mental health did not decline, and in particular, resilience went up. Sorry, and I realize now that we might have misfired on that one, but
no, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
But here's the funny part: the asterisk here is it really only affected rich, wealthy countries. So I did some like research down this hole just to kind of see, and it seems as though what I could find with other countries, specifically developing countries or like for third world countries, you know, like.
So they did look at that. It wasn't
they
just
did
excluded.
Not. In these studies, they were excluded. They just didn't make the criteria. So like it was not, it wasn't factored because they were not even included. But when I went looking for studies in those countries, what I found interesting is that not directly stated, but it felt very much like it would have supported that, because it seems like overall the lower income countries didn't actually separate as much as we did into pods. Like we didn't like disappear, or there was no social distancing. I mean, if you were that poor and your job was on a field or in a market,
you could not go to work. You couldn't. Yeah. Right.
So like, and you know, I'm drawing a bunch of conclusions based on not official conclusions, but if you think about it, like developing countries would have been far less socially distant, right? So if that's the case, all the shit we were just talking about with dopamine, Oxycontin, like oxytocin.
I hear that's a problem in some developing countries
I hear that's
as well.
Definitely a different kind of problem. Yeah. But like, wouldn't it make sense that if you Venn diagram those two things over one another, that you'd come out with it makes sense. If these people didn't stop doing all the shit that makes us human,
and then they would have been just as resilient.
Like, right. Like maybe that didn't really matter to them, you know, like maybe it wasn't a factor. So,
I'm also wondering if those, you know, let's call them the wealthier countries, because they had access to the internet and because they had an ability to shift how they did things. I'm wondering if that's some of the reason for the resilience as well, you know?
So
like, you know, they
resources.
Yeah, exactly. More resources made it more able to become resilient.
Sure. Like it's real easy to be resilient when you have to go from, you know, HBO to Showtime.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not, you know, that's not exactly an earth shattering.
Hey, what do I get to do? Do I get to binge all the shows? Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. I'll make it. Yeah. Be fine.
Yeah, totally. Nothing will happen bad to me.
10 seasons of Scrubs I got to catch up on.
Oh, holy shit. I'm watching that with my kids right now.
I fucking love that show, man.
Dude,
that was one of my favorite sitcoms.
My kids absolutely like love this show. Like we have been binge watching. We're up to season like 7 right now. It's crazy. Like, I mean, we'll watch like 2 in a night, like, you know, just because, which is not crazy for you solo binging, but like for me and 2 kids.
For kids. Yeah.
Like, you know, well, you know, on a Friday we might we might get to 4. But you know.
I gotcha. You know, the writing, you know, it was lighthearted. It was well put together. God, now I'm gonna like sing love songs.
It's really funny though, because when we were watching those and we were younger, like I don't
when
remember,
they were live.
I don't remember Friends being so fucking crazy. But we watch old shows with my kids, and one of them was I was like, you know what, we love this show, Friends. They're like, yeah, sure, let's give it a shot. We watched the pilot, and he comes out of the room in the first scene. He's coming out, he pulls a pubic hair out of his teeth when he was going down on his lesbian wife, and I was like, what the what?
that just went right over our heads.
I mean, it must have, right? But like, I'm sitting there going,
I don't remember that.
Fuck, I had no idea. So anyway, we're watching, and like, there's 18 references to fucking sex in the first like 3 minutes of the show. I'm like, oh my fucking God. This was on at like 8 o'clock on a Thursday.
And this was TGI Thursday. Was it Can't Miss Thursday or something like that?
Yeah, this was a Thursday night show that parents watch with their kids, for Christ's sake. Like, what?
I gotta say, so there's a new Night Court out.
Oh my God. Yes. With John
Larroquette. I went back to watch the original ones. No. I did not realize it was on from 1984 to 1992.
Wow.
And let me tell you, I'm watching that. It's on like Freevee or something, on one of the free ones. And there's an episode about a transgendered woman. Yeah, granted, there was some off-color Gen X jokes.
Sure.
But it was very like, the themes are like, they're doing things not to get the Vietnamese woman deported. And like, I'm like, this is super progressive for like the mid 80s. It was really shocking.
And also like, sad mirror to look in that we're still fucking fighting about the same dumb shit.
The same shit.
40 years later.
It's like some producer in the 80s was like, yeah, this is a topic that we should tackle.
Right,
and
but
now
like,
we're still like, wait, don't use the same bathroom as me.
Don't you think about that once in a while when you're like, what was it like for the person to put this forward? Like, was this revolutionary in 1983 to talk about a transgender?
Well, it's so crazy. I think it depends on the voice, right? Because let's face it, remember all the NWA shit when that came out?
Yeah.
And what is it, 2 Live Crew? And now you're like, oh, that's soft rock.
Yeah.
You're like that comes on between Kenny G.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you talking about, man?
Oh, man, some of this shit. Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, it is funny though. We're dealing with the same nonsense. Same fucking nonsense, right? Which is exactly why these studies, like, I laugh at, because I'm like, somebody gave you money to study what happens to my brain when we give each other a hug. Now, look, I'm a dork. I want to know what's happening in
Hey, man, I'm in for it.
Yeah.
I'm in for it.
What is it?
Let my tax dollars go to that.
Yeah. What is it? Your pituitary gland and hypothalamus, and like getting all kooky with brain drugs. And
I guarantee you there's a whole cascade.
But I don't need to actually, I mean, what makes me funny about, crack up about this shit is like, so much of these things are like, well, I mean, thanks for just telling me that, but I mean, what?
No shit, Mr. Harvard PhD.
Wow. How long did you spend on that again? Like, I'm just curious, like what, how much time? Right. Yeah. No.
You're going to tell me hot dogs are bad for me next?
Yeah. Next, you're going to tell me that heroin and a Marlboro Light are going to kill me. Like, that's probably a thing. Right. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, dude, why in the fuck is we've been yammering about cold showers and shit for years.
Yeah.
But like, what triggered the onslaught of cold showerness lately? Like, it's like kind of in more than a couple places.
I mean, you can't, and it's funny because the cold therapy, right? There was a really great article written called "The End of the Rice Method," which is like rest, ice, compression. Yeah. Right. And there was some pretty good research against ice for post injury. Right.
Okay.
You don't want to shut down the circulation. Yet that never kind of went away. And what I think was going on was this really cool thing where they weren't looking at the whole picture. Right. So maybe for your busted up knee that's all swollen, 24 hours and then don't put any more ice on it. But the therapeutic effects of being exposed to cold in various methods, right? There's similarities and there's little nuanced bits in there. I mean, we kind of, no pun intended, threw the baby out with the bathwater on that one, right? It was like it kind of went away. Well, no one wants to go outside and get cold. Why? It's cold.
It's cold.
Why? I'm comfortable going from my heated house to my heated car to my heated job to back to my heated car.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, is because and here's another example that I think we know more than we think we know.
Yeah.
Because the first time I ever did cold plunge was at a spa that had a cold plunge, a dry sauna, and a steam sauna.
Yeah.
And they were all, and then a hot tub.
Boom. Yeah.
It was four stops. Like you could just go boom, 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 boom. I got in up to my knees and felt my heart stop. I was like, oh my God, this is fucking cold. So I got out. I sat on the deck for a minute. I jumped back in. This time I went up to mid calf and I was like, oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
This is so cold. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hit this steam shower real quick. I run over to the steam shower. I get in there and I'm doing some sort of tree pose and just balance stuff, just kind of getting the blood moving. Right. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going after it. Go back there, jump in. Now I'm up to my belly button. My balls are in there. My belly button's in there. And at that point for men, you're pretty much committed.
Once you cross waistband, you're in.
You're committed, right? And for me, that sort of T-zone on my back is sort of I think actually more sensitive for me. I'm not sure if you have that same thing.
I think I'll say this: the cold plunge more so than the cryo,
right?
But yeah, once you feel that heat coming out of the core of your body, it's a different game, No,
absolutely. But here's what I found interesting. The very first time I ever did that, granted, I had this unique opportunity of geography of these, different modes, right?
Yeah.
But my body just knew that was the right answer. It said, get cold, then get hot, then get cold again. And then, you know what I mean? And doing that back and forth. And now we come to find out that that's absolutely valid. That's actually,
that makes sense. Yeah.
That makes sense. And I'm sitting there going, all that I did, was trust what my body was telling me. That's it. I didn't try to push back on it. I didn't try to judge it. I didn't try to read too much into it. I'm my body was no, I want this now. And I was yeah, great. I'm going to give that to you.
And this intuitiveness, it's always funny to me that we've kind of lost some of this intuitiveness,
Well, I think that's what we're kind of saying here, right? I mean, that intuitive thing has disappeared and it's been replaced by, oh, so it is better for me. Tell me exactly why. I want to know, chemically speaking, why is this better for me? I'm so this might be geeky stuff and great, but at the same time, isn't just knowing it, you already knew this was better. Why do you need proof? You know what I mean? There's certain things I need proof about, but certainly, for example, proof about psilocybin, that's, yes, we could say it felt great, but we do want proof of that.
Yeah. I think when we talk about this and we talk about basic research, right, we do that not because we oh, that feels good. We should look into that, but because why it feels good could also lead down other avenues, right? Sure. So, can we mimic that with something else, not to replace things? And, I've said this a ton of times to you, man. I feel like a lot of the things that we do in my clinic are replacing things that would happen if we were out in nature more.
Sure.
And it's almost like we're get back to that. Technology is going so freaking fast right now. We almost need the proof of the validity of natural things. Sure. It's oh, we got to eat organic. Well, no shit, grandma did. Why? They were putting shit on their vegetables,
Now, I will tell you along that line though, where science does really come in handy every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
That's why we got to keep our mind open to both here, right? But they found forest bathing. We were talking about that, right?
Yeah.
Forest bathing. They're why do all these Japanese guys who go out in the fucking pine forest in Japan, why are they so happy? What's going on there? So they did all these studies and they're oh my God, we all have to jump up and go to Japan. Well, then somebody was well, wait a minute, hold on a second. What if we just threw some really good essential pine oil into an atomizer and
And really blew it up. Yeah.
And as it turns out, it works exactly the same way. The only difference what they found out is like it was the pinene in the actual, the terpenes that we now talk about in cannabis, same thing, like, right. But the pinene that was literally, you're breathing it in off the pine trees, is the same shit that gets extracted from the oil, and you're breathing the same shit in. And so all those like things that happen in your brain when that happens happen the same way. Your brain doesn't know the difference. Like we just react like that. And so like that feeling like, oh, this feels good to be in a pine forest. I'm literally, as we speak, breathing in pine and frankincense, like in a, it's like a 90-10 mix that I make with, I feel like that frankincense really lifts the scent up. You know what I mean?
Frankincense has some real amazing properties too. I mean, we use it in Chinese medicine. Clearly it's not from China. It is from the Middle East. It is another tree resin, antibiotic, antiviral. And to mix that with a pinene for mood sounds pretty damn savvy.
It's great. No, it's fantastic. No, I love it. And like, but here's the thing. That's another one of those things where you're like, you try a bunch of different things. Like I've tried eucalyptus in there. I've tried Rada lemon oil in there. I've tried a whole bunch of different like versions of this, but this is the one that I kind of like.
This is the one that hits for you.
It centers me. You know what I mean? Like it feels, and here's the thing. It is predictable. Like every time I put this thing on, it has the same effect. Now, psychosomatic or otherwise, at this point, I couldn't care less. Like,
well, but even if it's like almost like a Pavlovian, like you've been trained the response, you're getting the response, right? You're still salivating, when you hear
smell
the bell.
That thing, you're like, and I'm good.
All right, cool. Everything's a little bit better now.
Everything's definitely better now. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, so anyway, that we could go on forever on this, but I do like that these things, the themes are coming. If you're paying attention, we're starting to see that, like, okay, great. Looks like there was a couple things that didn't go great.
Yeah.
But there's actually like a bunch of stuff that ended up being not so bad. Right. And like, so we can, as I try to tell my kids, right. And I read this somewhere a long time ago, but it takes the same amount of energy to be, basically an asshole about something as it does to not be an asshole about something, and so like, I'm like, just,
don't be an asshole.
Yeah. Let's kind of focus on the good part for a minute. Like, we spent a couple of years doing the bad thing. Let's switch the script a little bit.
And I think this gets back to like, for every one piece of good information or one or two pieces of good information, we take in 9 of negative pieces. So, and that's a survival mechanism, right? We know that's the left part of the amygdala that's freaking out the whole time. And
you do the same thing, by the way, in marketing with positive reviews versus negative reviews. It's the same thing, right? Like
you probably have to saturate so many positive reviews just to offset one little bad one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because somebody could read through 50 testimonials. Great. One person says this was a bullshit thing. And they're like, oh, this product's questionable. So how sus? And what's funny about it is that what person's review could be about it came in 4 days instead of 3.
Yeah. You know what's funny?
Nothing to do with the product at all.
I just signed with a company for something, and I checked them out online, and I saw a few reviews, and the conversation I had with the person I was signing with was like, look, man, you got to talk to me about this first. They had a very rational, level-headed response. And I was like, you know what? I hear that.
Right.
And I'm going to go with you. And in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, but that one guy.
That one
guy said,
so funny.
So
what are you getting into these days, man?
Man, I've mentioned, we talk a lot about being Gen Xers. I got invited to a couple of ska shows over the next couple of weeks, and they're old time bands. And now I'm going like, wait, if I'm 46 now, and those guys were older than me in the 90s, like, I mean, how many of them have all their original parts?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, not many is probably the right answer.
Not many.
Yeah.
I saw the Specials, old school British ska band, and the photo. There was one dude with one sad ass dread hanging off the side of his
Oh my God, that's so funny.
And I was like, oh my God.
We watched we had watched that show Raising Hope with the kids a while back, and we were missing somebody the other night, and we're like, all right, we need something to watch, but we can't watch any of the stuff we're working on because they're not all of us are there. So we watched this thing of Raising Hope, and there was a flashback episode when she was a teenager, and they were playing Punk Rock Girl by Dead Milkmen.
I love Dead Milkmen.
I mean, fucking greatest band. My kids looked at me like I was a mutant. I was like, oh my God, this song's amazing. They looked at me, they're like, this might be the worst song I've ever heard in my entire life.
It is like the fun, like they like, oh my God, they have so many offensive songs.
Oh my God. But Big Lizard in My Backyard might be
Big Lizard in My Backyard.
Fucking greatest songs ever made.
My favorite is probably Stewart. And it's totally not PC, but that's the whole point of it. It's some redneck in a trailer park, telling his conspiracy theories. Even back then,
I mean, I mean, God, what and it's funny. How do you ever justify those lyrics these days, right? Like, I mean, could you ever do those songs anymore?
I think because their approach was so, and like if you look at the punk scene, unless you're a skinhead, and there's even like good skinheads, they're so all inclusive, and hey, we don't want social or class or race or anything to judge. I feel like that's the place where like there's a punk band called the Angry Samoans.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if they're Samoan or not, which I don't know if that's cool, but they literally have a song called I Found Hitler's Dick. And it is like, what the hell? And it's funny.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this one time about that. What is it? Kentucky Fried Movie.
Fried Movie. Oh my God. Oh my
fucking
God.
Lord. That might be the worst movie. Like, I mean, it's hilarious when we watch it, but it's so inappropriate.
It is poking fun at those things, right?
It is.
Like almost like there's a way to do it. And then there's a way to get blacklisted. And like, I mean, to have B.B. King come out and say, did you know every 6 minutes a black man is born without soul? And come on, man.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
I want to go watch that movie again. And it's going to be so fucking dated that I'm going to be like, I laughed at this.
And by the way, the Angry Samoans are from LA. They are in fact.
No, I did not pick up a particular Pacific Island accent.
No, they're from LA. They're just to let you know.
I can believe that. West Coast punk always seems to be a little bit more like the world is shit. Here's a funny song about me fucking your mom or something. It's
right. That's funny. Oh man.
What are you getting up to, man? I didn't ask you.
No, so I'm geeking out in color right now. I am on a color feng shui little rabbit hole at the moment.
Oh God, is this has to do with your build out?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta make a space, right? Like, so what kind of space am I making? Like it's it's a thing. I don't know. You're into Chinese stuff. How much does feng shui pull into what you guys are doing?
Right? So this is the kind of cool thing about let's say Chinese philosophy as a whole, right? We have 5 elements, we got 8 principles, these kind of things. And it's all about acupuncture. If you look at Tai Chi, if you look at Xing Yi, if you look at Bagua, all these internal martial arts, those are it, right? We have 5 fists in Xing Yi. Xing Yi means mind-shaped boxing, right? And it's all about these different elements and how they interact. That's Chinese medicine. That is flower arranging. That is music, right? They don't have the name. I mean, you'll know that better than me, but they don't have the same major minor scale, right? Poetry, right? Here's how we get balance, and it's a mix of these. Even in Japan, the tea ceremony has to have those elemental representations. So feng shui is and feng shui really means wind, water, right? and it's a balance of those, right? So the principles, and this is kind of funny, where this is another thing that kind of got lumped into the new agey market, but some of it is like, don't have your desk with the back facing the door.
Yeah,
Why?
that stuff.
Somebody's going to scare the shit out of you.
Yeah.
It's like somebody's going to come in. You're not going to know they're there. Like it sounds like, why? Because the chi hits you in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you get this shit scared out of you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. What I do think is cool about it though, is like, and so I've the jujitsu thing for a long time, right? I mean,
yeah.
Jiu-jitsu,
same stuff, same principles.
Yeah, it's all, hard and soft and everything like that, right? And what I always thought was interesting about that is that, again, one of those intuition things, right? Like if I explode into somebody and fucking disable them, like completely take their, block their attack and completely stun them, that's the hard explosion. And then it's followed by a very calm down, graceful pick up, throw to the ground and subdue. Like, you know what I mean? Like that part, it's slow. Like I know it happens real fast, but in your brain, for people who've practiced it a bunch, it's not fast. It's really fast and then it's really slow.
Yeah.
And you're just like moving around. And I'm like, now I think that's intuition because I've done it for so long, but I do think that I got better at it because like my body wanted to get better at it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, we already knew how to do this.
It's trained.
Right.
Yeah.
It just wants to get better at that. Right. And so this color thing is the same way, right? It's actually in the feng shui area. And I don't know enough about this to like do a show on it, but if you look, like the way they look at it is like, green was like regeneration and renewal, and I'm like,
and it's the springtime, it's the liver,
right.
It's like, upward and outward growth. Yeah.
But I'm in creative space, so like for me as like an all the time situation, because I'm not going to repaint my walls every season, right? Like, so not saying that would be bad. I just don't have the resources to paint the walls every few months. Right. But I mean, if I, so green might be a really good idea, but then
I think if you're talking about creativity, that is the right.
But here's the thing though, red
from Chinese medicine.
Right.
Yeah.
But red is this super auspicious color that brings prosperity and energy and you know what I mean? Like, so you're like, okay, well, I want that too. And then, so it doesn't become like I can't paint my room all in red, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because, I wouldn't do red and green because then it's like fucking Christmas Town.
Yeah. But like, so here's the thing though, what I've been like processing in my brain, I was like, all right, well, what if there was like a, and I know blues are more sort of subtle by the hue in feng shui. Yeah. So like kind of the darker ones are, the vitality ones and the
you go more towards the kidneys with that, and that's more essence.
And then lighter ones, like, so my point is like, if you had like a mostly green, but kind of played in the spectrum of it, and then you had some red pops in there, you've got this like vitality.
You're getting growth, what you want. Yeah.
But you kind of keep like a undercurrent of energy. And it sounds kind of woo woo, but when in my mind, when I'm like playing through it, like, all right, I walk in, I see a couch with like red throw pillows, but it's in house plants and on, you know what I mean? And all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel that. So it's been a fun little rabbit hole to go down, to just be like, I wonder what that would be like to walk into this space like all the time.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So I've always wanted to get better at the feng shui stuff.
If you want, I know a couple of feng shui people. We can get them on the show. Maybe.
Oh, that would be fun. I see. Now I like it enough to have a conversation with somebody about it. I don't like it enough to like
study it yourself.
Yeah, study it myself. Yeah, exactly. So cool, man. All right, well,
man.
Check you next week.
Yeah, totally.
Take care.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.